بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على سيدنا ونبينا أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد وآله الطيبين الطاهرين لا سيما بقية الله في الأرضين اللهم أخرجني من ظلمات الوهم وأكرمني بنور الفهم اللهم افتح علينا أبواب رحمتك وانشر علينا خزائن علومك برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. Alhamdulillah, we have tawfiq to resume our study of Islamic plan for life. As you remember, we said this book has different units. The first two units are about values, about morals. First about personal or individual values, and second about social values. And then in unit 3 it starts studying behavioral system of Islam. Again, first personal and then social. And then there's discussion about family, and then there's discussion about society and how Islam brings order and justice and welfare to the society. And then there's a discussion about Islamic culture and civilization. So now we are in the first unit. We already have had several sessions. We had 7 sessions on personal values, and today inshallah we want to start with ikhlas or sincerity. As we said, alhamdulillah, the book is available. Those who are in the US and North America, they can get it there locally. Those who are in the UK or other European countries, you can contact Hujjat Academy, or everyone can contact Hujjat Academy and they put them in touch with the right contacts, so that inshallah you would all have access to the book bi'iznillah. Now let's start the discussion about ikhlas. Islam teaches us that in the same way that human beings have body and a spirit, actions also have body and a spirit. And I have to say that unfortunately, in the same way that some people ignore human spirit, they ignore also a spirit of actions. Imagine if someone thinks a human being is just this physical body, nothing else. How much they are undermining the reality of human beings, how much they are actually disrespecting humanity. Because our body, which is very important, is a great gift of Allah. And still, after thousands of years, we are learning about human body in different sciences. But it's a small part of us compared to our soul, our spirit, which is the greatest world that we are familiar with. It's greater than mountains and oceans. أتزعم أنك جرم صغير وفيك أنت والعالم الأكبر. Do you think you are just a physical mass, a matter of, I don't know, 50, 60, 100 more less kilograms? No. Al-Alam al-Akbar, the greater world, is inside you. The world inside is greater than outside. It's like an iceberg. What you see on the surface is much smaller than what you don't see. What is underwater is greater. So now let's go to the action. Someone is praying. Someone is, performing Hajj. Someone is reciting Quran. Someone is teaching. Someone is, helping poor people. You see the physics of the action, but this is very a small part of the action. Our hadith says, "An-niyyatu asasul amal." The basis and foundation of the action is intention. In the first year of Akhlaq series in the Hawza Ilmiya of England, we talked about the role of intention and also other aspects of husn-e faʿili. We said our scholars distinguish between husn-e faʿili and husn-e faʿili. Action by itself must be good, but it should be done by a good agent. A good agent is the one who is aware and conscious. So if I'm sleeping and doing something, it doesn't give me any value or credit. I have to be awake, I have to be conscious, I have to do things with intention. It must be intentional and it must be with good intention. So having intention, having attention, and having sincerity, all are important. Then ma'rifah, the same action, even with sincere intention, depending on the degrees of sincerity and degree of iman, degree of ma'rifah, degree of mahabbah for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, can have different levels and values. So like, people that when you look at their body, they are different, but still many people look the same. But when you look at the spirits of people, you cannot find even two people who are spiritually exactly the same. Even people who are born in the same family, they cannot be the same spiritually. Even if you clone them, they cannot be spiritually the same. So we need to pay attention to both physics of action and a spirit of actions. For example, when it comes to salat, we learn from fiqh how to make sure that everything is done properly. From prerequisites, from muqaddamat, from conditions, clothing, place, wuzu, tahara, direction to Mecca, and then all the parts of salat, qira'ah, qiyam, takbir, ruku, sujood, everything is to be done properly. And if you don't do them properly and you have khulus in niyyah, your salat is sahih, is valid. But still we don't know it is accepted or not. Validity is something, acceptability is something else. Sihha is something, qabul is something else. Maybe sometimes salat is sahih, but not maqbool, because only that part of salat is accepted that you have a presence of heart. If you have the physics of the salat, even your intention is good, but your soul is somewhere else, your salat is void of the spirit, no presence of heart, no iqbal of heart, then this salat is not accepted. Of course, if you bring nawafil, maybe it can compensate, as Imam Zainul Abidin alayhi salam said, but you need to do something extra to compensate. So something that we learn from Islam, and also you can find this also more or less reflected in other religious and spiritual traditions, is the role of intention. And in Islam, as I said, it has different dimensions. One aspect of it is sincerity. Ma'rifah, mahabba, all are there. Actions should be performed with sincere intention. In order to understand this, maybe we can approach it from the opposite angle. about those who lack sincerity. You know, we are all familiar with Shirk, Polytheism, to associate partners to God. But it's not that only idol worshippers are mushrik. It's not that only those who believe in two or more gods, they are polytheists. We learn that there are two types of shirk. Shirk jali wa shirk khafi. We have obvious shirk, and that is like pagans in the time of Islam, when Islam came, before Islam and early years of Islam, there were idol worshippers, they were mushrik. Actually, the Quran says they believed in God as creator, but they were associating partners to God, and they believed in other lords. And one of their excuses was وَمَا نَعْبُدُهُمْ إِلَّا لِيُقَرِّبُونَا إِلَى اللَّهِ زُلْفَى. We only worship them because they can take us closer to God. But لَإِن سَأَلْتَهُمْ مَنْ خَلَقَ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ. The same Quran says, if you ask them who has created the skies and earth, they would say Allah has created. So they were mushrik. They believed in other lords, other forms of deities, in addition to creator. And this is why Quran very much focused on Tawheed instead of proving existence of God, because they didn't deny existence of God. But we have shirk khafi, hidden shirk. And this is what can be found very common even among the believers and among the monotheists. Shirk khafi. إن يؤمنوا أكثرهم بالله إلا وهم مشركون. Most of them, they don't believe unless they suffer shirk. They are Muslims. They pray towards Allah through direction of Mecca. They go even to Masjid al-Haram. But maybe we suffer from hidden shirk. So sincerity or khulus is a matter of lacking shirk khafi, hidden shirk. Even hidden shirk should not be there. Another concept which also is helpful to know, and of course we have to be always alert about it, is riya or ra'a, which is normally said riya. Ra'a and nas. Riya or ra'a comes from ru'ya, means to show off. Sometimes people who are hypocrites, they want to show off. But sometimes even people who are not hypocrites, they are believers, they are Muslims, but there are traces of riya. We do things in order to be praised. We do things in order to make a good reputation. Or maybe this is not in the beginning our intention, but when people come to know about us, we get excited. Sometimes, I have mentioned this story. A person went to a mosque. It was not time of Jama'ah, so not many people were in the mosque. And he saw a person is, praying. So it was, mustahab prayer, but he was praying, with long ruku and sujood, and he had khushu', humility was seen on his body, on his face. So he said, MashaAllah, what a good prayer he's making. So this person who had entered the mosque saw this and said this. That person who was praying when he heard this was very happy. And while he was praying, said, I am fasting too. So if you want to praise me, you can even praise me for being fasting. Of course, when you are praying, you should not, talk. But anyway, he was suffering from riya, and already salat was problematic. So he said, I am fasting too. This is Riya. So we are not talking about idol worshippers. We are not talking about pagans. We are talking about us. We are all to be worried. Ayatullah al-Uzma Borujerdi rahmatullah alayh. You are all familiar with him, one of our great scholars of this age, a person who trained many ulama and mujtahideen, made lots of good things, lots of services. Towards end of his life, just the last few days, there was a meeting and some of great ulama were there, and Agha was aware of his death and was very concerned, and people could see. So they started saying to Agha about his great services. And before I mention what he said, I should mention something very important, that he is a person that he never did anything in order to promote himself and become marja. Some years before, when he was going to Mashhad, at that time, they used to go by, car or bus, not plane, So the idea was that some suggested that we should make sure that in every city that you arrive, people come to welcome you, to escort you, show respect. And Agha said, no. Of course, I don't say what they said was wrong, because they also were right that people, should be given opportunity to show their love to their marja, and sometimes it's important. But Agha himself should not have interest in this as a person. There's no personal interest. And he said, up to now, I have not made even one action in order to become marja, to promote. So we are talking about such person. So towards the end of his life, in that meeting, when people mentioned his services, training ulama, publishing books, making Masjid Azam, making masjid in Hamburg, which was very important a step, the first, Shia center, maybe in the West, and perhaps even Muslim center in the West. There were not that many at that time, in that size and beauty. Agha then said, purify the action. فَإِنَّ النَّاقِدَ بَصِيرٌ. Because those, of course, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and then under Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah who is going to examine your action. Naqid, in Arabic, naqd is to understand whether the coin is fake or genuine. Allah who is going to examine our action to see if it's genuine action or fake, He is Basir. He can scan all the layers of our heart and see if there is sincerity or not. So Agha says, I am not sure about my actions. Allah knows. So khulus is not something that can be easily achieved and maintained. To achieve it is difficult. To keep it, sometimes we do something sincerely, but then later we try to publicize it, etc. So we have to be very careful. So riya is to show off, is a sign of shirk khafi, is an opposite to khulus. Then there is a discussion in the book about different levels of intention. Sometimes our intention from the beginning is polytheistic. we suffer from riyah from the beginning. But sometimes we go higher, and we do in order to save ourselves from punishment. We don't want people praise us. We don't want to make a good reputation. I want to perform my duty because this is what I am obligated, and if I don't do it, I will be committing a sin. So this is khawfan min al-iqab. This is one level of sincerity, one level of qurba. Qasdul qurba, one level of it is to do it because you don't want to be punished. But a higher level is to do it for the sake of joy and eagerness and yearning for heaven. So you want reward from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You do it with expectations of reward from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But there is yet another level, and that is to do it in order to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You love to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Even if, suppose, you are guaranteed that there would be no punishment, and you are guaranteed that you are going to heaven, are you going to stop, or you are going to continue? Awliyaullah, lovers of Allah, friends of Allah, are the people that whether there is punishment or not, whether there is reward or not, it doesn't make any difference. There are people that when there is no police, they don't observe law. But if there is police, they observe law. These are not very good people. There are people, if they are paid or praised, they do good things. If they are not paid or praised, they don't do good things. These are not very, very special people. Those who are special, those who are really virtuous, are people that when there is police or no police, reward or no reward, doesn't make any difference. They do things because they have this awareness inside, this commitment inside, this dedication inside that motivate them to do good things and not to do bad things. They are police of themselves, and they are giving reward to themselves if there is a need for reward. If what is better reward than doing things properly and having inner peace? And of course, for lovers of Allah, it's even something more and deeper, and that is to know that Allah is pleased with you. So not only you have that inner peace, but you know that Allah is pleased with you. So this is for the people who are very pure, that even fear of punishment or yearning for heaven are not their main reasons or their reasons. Amirul Mu'minin salam, as you know, said, ما عبدتك خوفا من نارك ولا طمعا في جنتك بل وجدتك أهلا للعبادة فعبدتك. I didn't worship you out of fear from your fire or because I wanted heaven. I found you أهلا للعبادة. You are entitled for ibadah. You deserve ibadah. This ibadah suits you. So I worshipped you for that. Or in another saying, إِنَّ قَوْمًا عَبَدُوا اللَّهِ. Some people worshipped Allah because of fear. This is ibadatul abid, like slaves. Some slaves, only because of fear, they were listening to their masters. Some slaves, of course. If there was no fear, they would not listen. Maybe they run away. Some people worshipped Allah because of expectations of reward. These are tujjar, like tradespeople. But awliyaullah, they worship Allah because They love Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So Mukhlis is the one that reaches this point. Although other people we mentioned, those who, for example, do it for the protection from fire or for going to heaven, still they have some level of ikhlas, but real Mukhlis is this. And then we have Mukhlas. This is even higher. We have Mukhlisin and Mukhlasin. Mukhlisin are those who are purifying their actions, and their sincerity is, through their struggle. Mukhlasin are purified by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There is a level that you can work on your ikhlas. When you exhaust your power, then it reaches the point that Allah undertakes your purification further. Of course, even before He's helping you, but from one point on, it's only Him. Mukhlas. Like, for example, we are all mutatahhir, and Allah yuhibbul mutatahhirin. Allah loves the people who seek purity. But إنما يريد الله ليذهب عنكم الرجس. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says to the Ahl Bayt that Allah wants to remove all the impurities from them and makes them mutahhar. يطهركم تطهيرا. They become mutahhar. The difference is also between mutaqarrib and muqarrab, mutazakki and muzakka. In some lectures I have explained these terms. So Mukhlis and Mukhlas are different. Mukhlas is higher. And Shaitan said, لَأُغْوِيَنَّهُمْ أَجْمَعِينَ إِلَّا عِبَادَكَ مِنْهُمُ الْمُخْلَصِينَ. I will try to deceive, or I will deceive, depending on how we interpret this. Either I will deceive them, certainly, or I will try to deceive them, except those servants of you who are mukhlas. I have no way to even try to deceive them. I have no hope. Shaitan would not waste his time in deceiving mukhlasin. Mukhlisin, she tries to take away from them their ikhlas. But mukhlasin are protected because they have done their best already. So these are different levels of sincerity in intention. There are some hadiths here in the book. For example, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is quoted as saying, and this is in Biharul Anwar, that everything has a sign, and no one reaches the true sincerity unless they are not interested. They don't love to be praised. When they do something good, they don't expect praise. لا نريد منكم جزاء ولا شكورا, as the Quran says. It's very difficult. It's very, very difficult. Because even if we do things sincerely, it gives us some, energy if people praise us. But to reach the point that whether they praise or not wouldn't make any difference, it's very difficult. One of ulama said, I have worked a lot on my intention. Please listen very carefully. He said, I have reached the point that if someone goes on member in my presence and starts attacking me, condemning me, and I know that he is not right, it will not affect me. So, unfair criticism of people would not affect me. But if they praise me, I feel something is happening in my heart. I sense some joy. So it means that it's more difficult to reach the point that you don't feel excited when people praise you. It's very difficult not to be affected by blame and criticism, but more difficult than not to be affected when people praise you. So a sign of Mukhlis is the one that he or she tries to find in a wise way, not by, ignoring opinion of pious people. That's not what we want. Some people think ikhlas means to ignore opinion of everyone. No. Opinion of pious people, wise people, is an indication of the pleasure of Allah. But if you are sure, and this certainty through wisdom and through rationality, and you have support of pious people, that this is right, what I'm doing is right, then people appreciate or don't appreciate should not stop you and should not affect you. Should not stop is easier, although many of us even would stop. But should not affect you is more difficult. And we should reach that point if we want to become true servant of Allah, true Mukhlis. Should not be affected by that. Amirul Mu'minin alayhi salam says, the basis of ikhlas is to be despaired and to feel despaired about what is in hands of people, not to think about what people have and what they may give you. قَطْعُ الطَّمَعَ فِي أَيْدِ النَّاسِ is very much mentioned in our hadith. I should have my expectations only in my Lord and from my Lord. And if I can dictate myself all the time that, people are all dependent on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Why I don't go to the source? Why I try to please this or that? Yes, I please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If He wants me to please these people, I will keep them pleased. But not because of themselves, not because I want to gain something from them. I want to please my Lord. Lady Fatimah Zahra Salamullah alayha, in a famous hadith that I discussed this in Fatimah a few years ago. We had actually 2-3 sessions about sincerity in Fatimah in Imam Hussein Mosque in London. And we discussed, one of the things we discovered, this hadith that Lady Fatima is quoted as saying, whoever sends to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, raises to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, man as'ada ila Allah khalisa ibadatihi, his or her sincere ibadah sends to Allah, ahbat Allahu ilayhi afdala maslahati, Allah would send down the best of His interest. You send your best action, Allah would send your best interest to you. You don't need to worry. Then there is a discussion in the book about different methods that we can use to get rid of riyā and hidden shirk. One way is to strengthen our love for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Love has such power that can burn anything other than beloved. In Misbah al-Sharia it says, Hubbullah narun la tamurru bishay'in illa wahtaraq. Love for Allah is like a fire that when passes by anything, if there's anything impure, will be burnt. A lover is very much known by being fully taken by love for the beloved. You will not think about anything else. You don't have interest in anything else. If you are a true lover, you only think about your beloved. You wake up, the first thing comes to your mind is your beloved. You go to sleep, the last thing you think about it is your beloved. During the day you think about your beloved, during the night you have the dream of your beloved. This is a true lover. So if we strengthen our love for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then our ikhlas would be complete. How to strengthen our love for Allah? You may say, Mulana, now how we can strengthen our love for Allah? Of course, that is another discussion, but I can say quickly, one is to know more Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Why people fall in love with someone? Because they see some good qualities in that person. Some people look, physical beauty, they fall in love. Some people see moral beauty, spiritual beauty, beauty of the heart, they fall in love. Some people see knowledge and wisdom in an alim and they fall in love. So if you know Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and His beauty, His knowledge, His power, His kindness, His loyalty to His friends, His gratitude, His shakur, how can then you don't fall in love with Him? If we don't fall in love with Him, it's because we don't know Him enough, or we have not absorbed this ma'rifah, this knowledge. It's just on the surface. Especially think about His blessings. As Allah said to Musa, when Musa said, Oh Allah, how can I make people love you? Because Allah told him, Habbibni ila khalqi. He said, how? Allah said, Dhakkirhum bi'ala'i. Remind them about my blessings. Think about all the things Allah has done to you and to other people. Your friends, your family, humanity, everything. Then you would fall in love. And watch people who love Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's also another way to fall in love with Allah. See what Amirul Mu'mineen says, what Imam Hussein says, what Rasulullah says, what our spiritual scholars have said, what mystics have said about Allah, beautiful literatures, poem, etc. So, this is one way. Another thing which is very helpful is tafakkur, contemplation. We should think about those things that give us energy, about our motivation, about our intention, why I want to show off, whom I want to please, why I want to please. Is there any value independently in them? Everyone we respect, but we should not take them as our lords. There is a balance. It's not that I ignore them, it's not that I say they are useless, na'uzu billah. No, they are very much important, they are respected, they are creatures of Allah, they are signs of Allah. But if they want to become my Lord, no. Nothing can be compared to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. As Ibrahim alayhi salam said about sun, when sun was setting, La uhibbu hadha, I don't want. Moon, no, because it's setting. Stars, no. So my boss, my manager, I don't know, someone rich, someone who has power, someone who has position, someone who is famous, someone who is socially influential, a celebrity. No, only my Lord, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But this is tafakkur, this is constant thinking. There are many things that we know, but it is through tafakkur that we can absorb and grasp them. As Imam Kazim said in Hadith to Hisham ibn Hakam, it is with thinking that Aqidah becomes firm and established. Don't think you always need to learn new things. Yes, many times we need to learn new things, but we also need to absorb the things that we know. Repetition, mubahasa, discussion, contemplation are all to absorb what we hear and what we read, what we know. So tafakkur is very important. And also thinking about how much they can help me. They are themselves dependent. Thinking about the value of my action, how much my action can be valuable if it is for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. For example, about fasting, Allah says, "As-sawmu li wa ana ajzi bih," or "wa ana ujza bih." Fasting is for me, I reward. No one else can reward. This is so great. Or "ana ujza bih," I am the reward for fasting. So now, if my fasting can be that valuable, should I show off? Should I fast for the sake of people? As-salatu mi'rajul mu'min. Should I say my prayer for the sake of people? Sadaqah is something that Allah loves a lot. He loves people who give sadaqah. Should I give sadaqah for the sake of people? So thinking about the value of action when they are done sincerely, and uselessness of the action when they are not done sincerely, or if they are done with bad intention, not only they are useless, they are harmful. If I show off, this now becomes a poison. It's not just neutral, it's not just useless, it becomes a poison. You are worshipping shaitan. When you worship shaitan, it's not useless. Trying to keep actions as much as possible between you and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Certain actions, of course, we need to do that in the public. For example, Salatul Jama'ah. We should do it in the public. We cannot say we don't do Salatul Jama'ah. But you can do your nawafil at home. We are recommended to do our nawafil at home. This would bless your home. Also, this is safer. Or for example, for sadaqah, if this is sadaqah mustahab, it's better to do it in private. But if it is wajib, of course, you can do it in public, like zakat and khums, if needed. Sometimes even sadaqah mustahab is better to give in the public so that people are encouraged. But if there is no good reason, even hadith says, for example, if you can give with one hand and the other hand doesn't know about it, do it. And try to have something between you and Allah only, that no one, even your parents, your husband, your wife, wouldn't do. Not by, making them annoyed, but try to keep certain things between you and Allah. Maybe you do some special a'mal, maybe you do you give some sadaqah. If possible, just keep it between you and Allah. So at least there are a few things that is only between you and Allah, and they are saved for you. And also this makes sure that your motivation was not totally always polytheistic. If you are able to do certain things only for the sake of Allah and without anyone knowing, this shows that you are not such a bad person. So at least there is a potential and there is some space in your heart to belong to Allah only. Fasting is also one of those ibadat which is very good, because it's much easier to protect it from knowledge of people and attention of people. No one knows. And also among zikrs and invocations, La ilaha illallah is a very good zikr, because La ilaha illallah is a zikr that you can say without people noticing. If I want to say Subhanallah, Alhamdulillah, so people would see my lips are moving. But La ilaha illallah is something that you can say even without people noticing. This is not to suggest that don't say other zikr, but this means that if you want to say something in front of people, then you can say La ilaha illallah, and other zikrs when you are alone. And then thinking about the fact that we are ourselves the first beneficiary and the main beneficiary of our actions. We should not expect praise from people. If Allah has given me opportunity to serve my community, to serve people, to do something good, I should not expect people to praise me. Of course, they have responsibility to praise good people, but this is their responsibility. I should not expect from them, but they should also thank. This is a mutual, responsibility that we have. Those who do good should not expect praise, but people who receive or watch people doing good things, they should thank them and praise them. In this way, we go always to the best. Okay, Alhamdulillah, we finished this discussion, and I hope, inshallah, we all work on purifying our intention and actions, and may Allah, inshallah, give all of us sincerity بحق محمد وآل محمد. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen.